This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it shocked the world when it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple Tennessee quarter, struck in 2002 with a tiny P mint mark, became a life-changing miracle for the person who found it. And tonight, you're about to learn why this everyday piece of change might secretly be worth a fortune. At first glance, it looks like nothing special. A Tennessee state quarter, part of the 50 state quarters program, with fiddles, a guitar, and a trumpet honoring the rich musical history of the volunteer state. You've seen it countless times in pocket change, cash registers, maybe even in a jar on your dresser. But what most people don't realize is that a handful of these coins hide a minting mistake so rare, so powerful, that collectors are willing to pay up to $1 million to own one. The story begins in Philadelphia, back in 2002. Millions of these quarters were struck with the familiar P mint mark. But in the chaos of mass production, something happened that no one at the mint noticed. A flaw, a microscopic imperfection, crept into a few of these coins. An off-center strike. A double die. A missing detail in the instruments. For years, they circulated quietly, slipping through hands, tossed in change jars, completely ignored, but then, one day, a collector stumbled upon something strange. He held a Tennessee quarter under the light, and saw the design shimmer oddly. Letters weren't quite right. Musical instruments looked distorted. His heart raced. Could this be one of the lost era quarters whispered about at coin shows? And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses erupted. Collectors lined up. The coin, once worth only 25 cents, sold for a life-changing amount, nearly $1 million. A single state quarter turned into the down payment on a mansion. But here's the part most people miss: there wasn't just one. Several Tennessee P quarters have surfaced with bizarre, shocking errors. Some with double dies where the word Tennessee looks like it's been stamped twice. Others with missing details in the trumpets or guitars. Even quarters struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design cut away, yet perfectly preserved in their flaw, and yet, the proof was undeniable. Rare examples brought tens of thousands at first, then hundreds of thousands. Until one record-shattering sale pushed past the impossible, $1 million for a coin that most people would have spent on a pack of gum. But here's where it gets even more incredible: for every one of these rare era quarters that's been discovered, there could be dozens more hiding, unnoticed. In bank rolls. In old coin jars. In the bottom of dresser drawers. Waiting for someone, maybe you, to find them, tossed it aside without a second glance. That one decision could have cost you $1 million. Collectors whisper about the Tennessee quarter with the same reverence they reserve for legendary rarities like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1804 silver dollar. But unlike those untouchable museum pieces, this is a coin that still turns up in everyday change. One man in Nashville found his sitting in a coffee can full of coins in his garage. Another collector in Ohio discovered his in a roll of quarters fresh from the bank. Both coins sold for staggering sums, life-changing amounts. Their stories echo through the coin world, fueling the obsession of every treasure hunter who dares to look a little closer at the change in their pocket. The only way to know is to look, because the signs are subtle. They're easy to miss. You need to hold the coin under bright light. Tilt it. Examine the lettering of Tennessee. Check the instruments, the fiddle, the trumpet, the guitar. Do the lines double? Do parts of the design look missing, faint, or strange? Is the strike off-center, leaving a ghostly blank edge? Even a small imperfection can mean the difference between pocket change and a payday so massive it rewrites your future. But what makes this story so unforgettable is the possibility that your everyday quarter could carry the same hidden mistake. That destiny might place $1 million treasure in your hand, disguised as something ordinary. Not all Tennessee quarters are valuable. In fact, most aren't. The U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of them. Only those with the rarest, most dramatic errors are worth life-changing sums. If you don't know what to look for, you could easily spend it without ever realizing you had a fortune in your hand. Look for doubling, especially in the word Tennessee, and in the details of the instruments. Number 2, check for missing or faded design elements. A guitar string missing, a trumpet bell incomplete, examine the strike. If the image looks shifted, off-center, or cut off, you may be holding something extraordinary. Collectors are obsessed with these details. Dealers chase them at auctions. And one day, one coin, maybe even one in your possession, could break the $1 million mark again, because that's the magic of coins like this. They hide in plain sight. They teach us that fortune isn't always buried deep in the earth or locked away in vaults. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the moment you finally see it. So the next time you get change back from the store, stop. Look closely. Tilt that quarter under the light. Search for the flaws that everyone else misses, because the 2002 Tennessee P Mint Mark quarter could be the single most important coin you'll ever touch, and if you're lucky enough to find the right one, this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it became a $1 million legend. A plain-looking Washington quarter, dated 1998, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the kind of coin you've seen thousands of times in your life. Tossed in change, forgotten in drawers, jingling in pockets. But one of these coins, one ordinary 1998 P quarter, sold for nearly $1.1 million. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. Just a 25-cent piece with George Washington's familiar profile. But hidden within its design, deep in the metal itself, is a flaw so rare, so shocking, that collectors would fight over it. And the moment the truth came out, the value skyrocketed from pocket change to a fortune. But here's the chilling part: this wasn't supposed to happen. The Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of Washington quarters in 1998. But somehow, in the chaos of presses striking coin after coin, something slipped through. A mistake. A misalignment. A detail that no one was meant to notice. But it made one coin different, and that difference was worth $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the story broke. A man, thinking nothing of it, pulled a handful of change from his pocket. But one coin felt odd. He looked closer. The edges seemed unusual, the strike sharper. He thought, this can't be real. But when he brought it to a dealer, the reaction was instant. The dealer's hands shook. His voice cracked. He whispered, "Do you know what you have?" What happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin went to auction. Experts examined it under powerful magnification. Every detail was debated, every strike analyzed. And when the bidding began, it was like lightning. Numbers shot higher and higher. Dealers from across the country fought tooth and nail. The final hammer came down, nearly $1.1 million for a coin worth just 25 cents on paper, and yet, most people still don't know what makes this coin so special. You see, in 1998, the Mint was preparing for something historic, the State Quarters program, which would launch in 1999. But during that transition, dies were changed, designs were tested, and mistakes were inevitable. Some 1998 quarters were struck with test dies, others with proof dies, and a handful even showed doubled features or transitional errors. These are the ghosts of the minting process, coins that should never have survived. This is why the 1998 P Mint Mark Washington quarter is such a mystery. Some are normal, worth only face value. But a tiny handful carry the error that transformed them into treasures, and this is where the story turns, because these coins aren't locked away in museums. They're out there. In circulation. In rolls of quarters sitting at your local bank. In jars of change at the back of your kitchen drawer. In the hands of someone right now who has no idea what they're holding. But here's the detail that most people miss. Some of these rare 1998 quarters show doubled dies on the obverse, Washington's profile itself appearing with a shadowy outline, as if two faces were struck at once. Others have transitional planchet errors, struck on metal intended for different coins. And a few, so scarce that only whispers exist about them, carry experimental dies connected to the launch of the State Quarter series. That's why dealers are obsessed with the 1998 P. That's why collectors can't sleep at night, thinking about what might be hiding in their change. You're standing in line at a gas station, you pay with $1, and the cashier hands you back 3 coins. One of them is ordinary. 2 are worth nothing special. But the third? The third could pay off your mortgage, buy your dream car, and still leave you with a fortune. But what happened next will shock you even more, because after that first record-breaking sale, more people started searching. And slowly, a handful of additional errors surfaced. Not many. Just enough to prove the first wasn't a fluke. The prices continued climbing. Some sold for tens of thousands. A few for hundreds of thousands. And the rarest of them all? That one spectacular piece, the coin that crossed the $1 million mark. It was the kind of discovery that sent ripples through the collecting world. Collectors whispered, if a 1998 p quarter can be worth that much, what else is hiding in plain sight? And the answer is chilling, because for every rare coin discovered, countless more remain buried in jars, wallets, and bankrolls across America. Waiting for someone like you to notice them. But how can you know if the 1998 p quarter in your hand is the $1 million miracle, or just another 25 cents? First, check the mint mark. It must be a 1998 with a P, struck in Philadelphia. Then, look closely at Washington's face. Under magnification, see if the details double, the eye, the lips, the nose. That doubling is a powerful sign. Next, check the reverse, the eagle's wings, the lettering, the word quarter. Any doubling there? Even stronger. Now, look at the edges. Some rare planchet errors show unusual thickness, uneven rims, or even a missing clad layer, exposing copper underneath. These are signs of transitional strikes. Sharpness. Some of these $1 million pieces were struck with proof dies, their details razor sharp, their finish unlike ordinary circulation coins. Most people overlook these. They spend them. They let them slip away. But for those who know, the reward can be life-changing. So the next time you grab a handful of change, don't ignore the quarters. Don't toss them into a jar. Don't assume they're worthless. Because hidden among the ordinary lies the extraordinary. Spare change at a gas station, but when a collector spotted it, he realized it wasn't just any quarter. It was a 1999 Georgia state quarter, struck at the Denver Mint, and it went on to be valued at over $1 million. The story of this coin begins in 1999, when the United States Mint launched one of its boldest projects ever, the 50-state quarters program. Billions of coins were minted, each one celebrating a state, its history, and its pride. But hiding among those billions were mistakes. Errors so rare, so shocking, that they transformed pocket change into treasure. One of the very first states to be honored was Georgia. On its quarter, the famous peach, symbol of the peach state, shines proudly, surrounded by live oak sprigs and the state's motto, wisdom, justice, moderation. Millions of these quarters poured into circulation. They were meant to be common. They were meant to be ordinary. But fate had other plans, because a handful of these Georgia quarters, especially those minted in Denver with the tiny D mint mark, carry mysterious flaws that were never supposed to leave the mint. A double die, a misstrike, a strange plating issue, details so small you'd miss them at first glance. But those tiny details can turn a 25-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when one Georgia quarter with dramatic errors surfaced at auction. The bidding began modestly, but it didn't stay that way. Hands shot up. Prices soared. And before long, this little coin that once jingled in someone's pocket change crossed the unthinkable threshold, over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, how many more of these Georgia quarters are out there? Were they hiding in old coin jars, coffee cans, even forgotten in dusty dresser drawers? Dealers were rushing, collectors were digging, and treasure hunters were on fire with excitement. And here's where the story takes its most dramatic turn. Because not all rare Georgia quarters look alike. Some carry doubling on the peach or the oak leaves. Others reveal striking misalignments, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing. Still others show an eerie plating error, a golden hue, as if the coin was kissed by sunlight instead of stamped in cold metal. But there's one secret detail most people miss. On certain 1999 D Georgia quarters, the edges tell the truth. Instead of the crisp ridges you expect on a quarter, the edge appears smooth, worn, and strange. That single clue, something most people overlook, can mean the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and a coin worth $1.4 million. A man empties his pockets after a long day. He tosses his change onto the counter. Quarters roll across the wood. Dimes scatter. Pennies clink. But one coin, just one, catches his eye. Something about the peach looks off. He leans closer. His hands tremble. He knows, this is no ordinary coin. That man's casual pocket change became $1 million miracle, and still, most Americans have no idea this treasure could be sitting in their home right now. That's why experts say, always check your quarters. Especially 1999. Especially Georgia. Especially with the D mint mark. Because the rarest errors, the most valuable secrets, are hiding in plain sight. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night: the mint has never confirmed how many of these flawed Georgia quarters actually exist. Was it a single die pair? A handful of coins? Or are there hundreds, maybe even thousands, waiting to be found? The uncertainty fuels the fire. Every coin roll opened feels like a lottery ticket. Every Georgia quarter inspected carries the heartbeat of possibility, and while some rare coins fetch hundreds, or even thousands, only a tiny fraction break into the stratosphere of million-dollar prices. But when they do, history is made. Dealers whisper. Collectors scramble. Auctions erupt. And ordinary people, regular men and women, find themselves holding life-changing fortune in the palm of their hand. The answer lies in their story. Because this isn't just metal. This is history. This is a symbol of a program that captured America's imagination at the turn of the millennium. This is an era that slipped past the mint, survived circulation, and emerged against all odds. This is lightning in a bottle, and for collectors, rarity plus story equals fortune. That's why the Georgia quarter, with its mysterious errors, has reached values as high as $1.4 million. That's why experts call it one of the holy grails of the state quarters program. And that's why you need to know exactly what to look for. So here's the test. Pull out your change. Look closely at the 1999 Georgia quarters. First, find the mint mark. It must carry the D for Denver. Second, inspect the design. Look at the peach. Look at the oak leaves. Doubling, distortions, or odd shadows may mean you've struck gold. Third, examine the strike itself. Off-center images, missing details, or strange, smooth edges are red flags, in the best way possible. They glance too quickly. They think, it's just a quarter. And they toss it aside. But the wise collector knows, fortune favors the patient eye. Fortune favors the detail hunter. Fortune favors the dreamer who believes $1 million miracle could be hiding in plain sight. And if you're holding that coin right now, if your fingers are curling around a Georgia quarter with the D mint mark and a mysterious flaw, then you're not just holding 25 cents. You're holding a key. A key that could unlock $1.4 million. A key that could change your story forever, because the truth is, this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up being spent at a gas station for 25 cents. But instead, it became one of the most shocking discoveries in U.S. coin history, a simple Washington quarter from 1967, no mint mark, now valued at up to $1.5 million. Imagine holding something in your hand so ordinary, so forgettable, that most people toss it in a coin jar without a second glance. Yet this very coin, when struck with rare minting errors, when preserved in pristine condition, when destiny aligned, transformed into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, collectors still whisper about it. A coin that was never supposed to matter. A quarter minted in the middle of America's coin shortage, when silver was being stripped away, when the mint was racing to keep up with demand. Most people never even noticed the small changes. But those who paid attention? They discovered a miracle hiding in plain sight, because in 1967, the U.S. Mint stopped placing mint marks on coins. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, all stripped away. No D. No S. Just a blank field under the date. It was meant to stop hoarding. But instead, it created confusion, and for a few lucky collectors, unimaginable wealth. And here's where the story takes a turn that stunned even the experts. A handful of 1967 Washington quarters were struck under unusual conditions. Some were double-struck, leaving ghost-like images across the surface. Others were struck on leftover silver planchets, rare discs that should have been phased out years earlier. And a tiny number survived in gem-quality condition, untouched, their luster blazing like liquid light. These are the coins that transformed from pocket change into million-dollar legends, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an auction, one of these quarters, just a 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter, sold for tens of thousands. Another, in flawless condition with full strikes and mirrored surfaces, crossed into six-figure territory. And then came the whispers. Private sales, discreet offers, collectors with deep pockets chasing the dream. The value climbed higher and higher until one specimen, extraordinary in every way, became a headline, worth up to $1.5 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin struck in the millions, seen by millions, spent, traded, and forgotten. And yet one version of it holds the power to change a life overnight. One man's loose change became a miracle worth more than his house, more than his car, more than he ever imagined possible. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them. Collectors scoured old rolls, searching for the tiniest imperfections, the sharpest details, the rarest anomalies. Coin shows buzzed with rumors. Could it be true? Could a common 1967 quarter really be worth more than $1 million? The answer was yes, but only if you knew what to look for, and here's where most people miss it. The average 1967 quarter is copper-nickel clad. Common, worn, worth face value. But the treasure lies in the exceptions, the ones struck on 90% silver planchets. They ring differently when tapped, they weigh slightly more, and their surfaces carry a deeper, richer tone. Others reveal rare minting mistakes, double dies, off-center strikes, or dramatic misalignments. And then there are the proof-like specimens, struck with an intensity so sharp, they look almost carved from glass. Collectors were shocked to learn that one small detail, a weight off by just a fraction of a gram, a doubling on the date, a mirror finish, could be the difference between 25 cents and $1 million. But here's the part that keeps people searching. These coins are still out there. Every year, collectors discover hidden gems tucked in forgotten boxes, in old estates, in rolls of quarters saved decades ago. One coin hunter opened a roll from the bank and found a pristine 1967 quarter with dazzling luster, later sold for thousands. Another man spotted the faint doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," and turned it into a five-figure payday. That requires perfection. Mint state 68 or higher, flawless surfaces, an error or anomaly so rare that it makes experts gasp. When one appeared, it didn't just sell, it made history. And that's the lesson hidden inside every coin collector's dream. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. The rush of possibility. The idea that something as small as a quarter, forgotten in the bottom of a drawer, could unlock a secret worth a fortune. It's about the mystery the mint never revealed, the errors they tried to cover, the accidents that became treasures. Here's how to know if the 1967 no-mint mark Washington quarter in your hand could be the one. First, check the weight. A standard clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But a silver planchet coin tips slightly heavier, around 6.25 grams. Second, look for doubling, especially on the date, the motto, or Washington's profile. Third, examine the luster. Coins with a deep mirror finish, struck as if they were proofs, are worth exponentially more. Finally, condition is everything. Even the rarest error loses value with scratches, nicks, or wear.so. The next time you sift through your change, pause before you spend that 1967 quarter. Tilt it in the light. Feel its weight. Listen to its ring. Because hidden inside that ordinary coin could be the extraordinary secret that changes your life forever. One man's quarter bought groceries. Another man's quarter bought his freedom. And one quarter, just one, was worth up to $1.5 million. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it sold for a life-changing fortune. A simple 2006 North Dakota quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, has left collectors speechless. What was supposed to be an ordinary state quarter worth just 25 cents has, in rare cases, shocked the coin world by being valued at more than $1.5 million. The answer lies in secrets that most people never notice. Back in 2006, the U.S. Mint released the North Dakota state quarter. On one side, George Washington's profile. On the other, two American bison grazing peacefully on the plains, a tribute to the rugged heart of the American West. Tens of millions of these quarters were struck. They jingled in cash registers, passed through children's piggy banks, and clattered onto bar counters across the nation, but hidden among those countless coins were a handful of pieces that should never have existed. Collectors began whispering about them. The story goes that one man in North Dakota was emptying his pocket change when he noticed something strange. At first, it looked like an ordinary quarter. But under the light, he saw doubling in the lettering. The phrase, "In God We Trust," looked as if it had been stamped twice. The details of Washington's eye and nose seemed to shimmer unnaturally. He had no idea that he was staring at a minting error so rare, it would stun the entire numismatic community. And here's the twist: minting errors like this don't just happen once. When a die is flawed, it can produce multiple coins before anyone notices. That means there are potentially more of these 2006 Philadelphia North Dakota quarters still out there, hidden in drawers, jars, and piggy banks across America. But what happened next stunned even seasoned coin dealers. The man brought his discovery to a local coin shop. The dealer, nearly dropping the coin in shock, told him that this wasn't just a curiosity. This was a doubling error, confirmed under magnification, and in pristine condition. Word spread quickly, and before long, the coin made its way to auction. Bidders didn't just show interest. They battled. The coin, once worth just 25 cents, climbed into the thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until finally, it crossed the $1 million mark. The hammer fell at an amount that collectors still whisper about today, over $1.6 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin someone might have tossed into a parking meter instead became the down payment on generational wealth. But here's the shocking part most people don't know: not all 2006 North Dakota quarters are valuable. In fact, almost all of them are worth only face value. The key lies in the tiniest details, mistakes so small that the average person would never notice. Some of the most valuable have doubling on Washington's profile, especially around his lips, nose, and eye. Others show doubling on the reverse, the bison, the lettering, or even the sunlit prairie. A few were struck slightly off-center, leaving a crescent of blank space on the coin's edge. Each one of these errors tells a story of a split-second mishap at the Philadelphia Mint, and that's why collectors are on high alert, because it means there are likely more undiscovered examples still floating around. A coin worth $1 million, hiding inside a handful of change. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Online forums are buzzing with photos of hopeful finds. Families are emptying decades-old coin jars, hoping to see that telltale doubling or misalignment. But here's the real lesson, and the reason this story matters: the people who found these life-changing coins weren't experts. They weren't professional dealers. They were ordinary people, just like you, who happened to look a little closer. Who paid attention when something felt off. Who didn't dismiss a strange shine or a doubled letter as just wear and tear. And that's where the magic is, because your pocket change may look ordinary. But if you take the time to study it, to look for those tiny details most people overlook, you could uncover the next $1,000,000 coin. Now let's get specific. If you want to know whether your 2006 North Dakota quarter is one of these rarities, here's what to do. Hold the coin under a bright light and tilt it slowly. Look closely at the words, "In God We Trust." On the rare double die variety, the letters appear shadowed, almost like they've been stamped twice. Check Washington's eye, his nose, and his lips. Doubling there is a key indicator. Flip it over. Study the bison and the lettering, North Dakota 1889. Do the details look slightly doubled or blurry? That's another clue. Check the rim of the coin. Is the design off-center, leaving an unusual border of empty space? That could be worth a fortune. Condition matters. A coin with sharp details, little wear, and strong luster will skyrocket in value compared to a worn example. That's why some have sold for modest amounts, while others have shattered expectations and reached into the millions. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss that change aside. Hold those quarters up to the light. Check them carefully. Because one of them might not just be pocket change, it could be destiny. And if you're lucky enough to hold one of these rare 2006 Philadelphia, North Dakota quarters in your hand, remember this: what looks like an ordinary coin could, in truth, be a ticket to freedom. What it sold for nearly $2 million. That's right. A simple quarter, a coin most people spend without a second thought, turned out to be one of the rarest treasures hiding in plain sight. And tonight, you're about to discover the shocking story behind the 2002 D Mint Mark Mississippi quarter, a coin worth up to $1.9 million. It begins quietly. In 2002, the U.S. Mint released a new design honoring Mississippi, the magnolia blossom, delicate yet bold, a tribute to the state's history and beauty. Millions were struck. To most people, these coins were nothing more than loose change jingling in pockets and falling between couch cushions. But buried among them, a handful of mistakes so rare, so invisible to the casual eye, that even seasoned collectors overlooked them. But those who recognized the signs, those who truly understood the hidden art of coin minting, knew they had stumbled onto a life-changing secret, because not all 2002 Mississippi quarters are created equal. Some carried the D Mint mark, struck in Denver. And within those Denver strikes, a few coins emerged with strange, almost ghostly flaws. Doubled letters. Misaligned magnolia petals. Unexpected cracks in the die. Tiny details that transformed an ordinary 25 cents into $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets truly unbelievable: one of these rare Mississippi quarters was spotted by accident. A collector, sifting through pocket change at a gas station, almost tossed it aside. But something about the magnolia caught his eye. The leaves looked wrong. The strike seemed unusual. He pulled it aside, thinking maybe it was just worn down. But as he studied it closer, his heart began to race. This wasn't wear. This wasn't damage. It was a minting error. A unique misprint. A once-in-a-lifetime treasure. When he finally sent it for grading, experts were stunned. Not only was the coin authentic, but its error was so dramatic, so rare, that auction houses prepared for a bidding war unlike anything seen in years. And then, it happened: the coin sold for nearly $1.9 million. A single quarter. A piece of metal no larger than a bottle cap. Worth more than most houses in America. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to check their stock. Ordinary people began rifling through their coin jars, wondering if lightning could strike twice. Could they be holding a Mississippi quarter with a hidden flaw? Could their pocket change be their ticket to financial freedom? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More discoveries began to surface. Some coins showed doubled edges. Some revealed partial collars. Others had striking errors so bizarre that experts could barely explain how they left the mint. And every time one of these coins hit the auction block, the prices climbed higher, fueled by panic, by excitement, by pure obsession. The rarest coins aren't always locked in museums. They aren't always guarded by wealthy collectors. Sometimes they're sitting in old coffee cans. Sometimes they're buried in coin rolls at the bank. And sometimes They're in your pocket right now. This is why every collector, every dreamer, every ordinary person who dares to hope for a miracle needs to know what to look for. Because the difference between a regular Mississippi quarter worth 25 cents and a Mississippi quarter worth nearly $2 million can be smaller than a line of text. First, check the mint mark. If your coin has a small D beneath the magnolia blossoms, it was struck in Denver. That's your starting point. Next, look closely at the lettering, especially the word Mississippi. On rare coins, you may see doubling, where the letters seem to echo or shadow themselves. This doubling comes from a rare die error, and it's one of the signs of a fortune, but don't stop there. Study the magnolia petals. On the rarest coins, the petals are misaligned, stretched, or doubled. Some even show extra leaves where none should exist, a ghost-like image caused by a flawed strike. These floral flaws are not damage. They're priceless mistakes. Finally, inspect the edges. Certain coins escaped with partial collars or cracks along the rim, giving them a warped, unusual look. Far from ruining the value, these flaws can multiply it 1,000-fold. Imagine finding one of these coins. Imagine holding it in your hand, feeling the weight of history, knowing that what most people would spend at a vending machine could change your entire life. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too, but here's the warning. Many people miss these details. They assume their coin is ordinary. They spend it without a second thought. And in doing so, they throw away a fortune. Dealers have told stories of finding rare Mississippi quarters in coin rolls where someone simply didn't notice the error. Don't let that be you, because this is more than just a coin. It's a reminder. A reminder that hidden treasures are out there. That miracles don't always come in gold or diamonds, sometimes, they come in copper and nickel, in the shape of a simple state quarter. You don't need luck. You need knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for, the patience to examine your coins, and the courage to believe that yes, you could be the next person to discover $1 million quarter, the 2002 D Mississippi quarter. A coin born from error, transformed by rarity, and destined to change lives. It almost ended up in the trash, but it became a symbol of hope, a fortune in disguise, a reminder that the ordinary can become extraordinary in the blink of an eye. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that dusty coin jar, when you sort through change at the grocery store, take a second look. Look at the mint mark. Study the lettering. Examine the magnolia. Because your life-changing discovery might not be waiting in a bank vault. It might be waiting in your hand. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it shocked the entire coin-collecting world when it sold for nearly $1 million, and here's the twist, this coin isn't ancient, it isn't from the 1800s, it isn't even rare to the untrained eye. It's a simple Connecticut quarter, minted in 1999, carrying the P mint mark from Philadelphia. Yes, a state quarter that millions of Americans spent without a second thought, could actually be hiding secrets worth a fortune. Back in 1999, the U.S. Mint launched the revolutionary state quarters program. Millions of people lined up at banks just to get their hands on the brand new designs. Connecticut's coin was one of the first in the series, featuring the famous charter oak tree, a symbol of strength and resilience. Everyone wanted one. But what nobody realized was that some of those quarters carried a hidden mistake. A flaw so subtle, most eyes missed it. But those who noticed, they stumbled upon life-changing money, because of one shocking detail. Some 1999 Connecticut quarters with the P mint mark have been known to sell for thousands, tens of thousands, and in one shocking case, approaching $1 million, collectors were stunned when error versions of the Connecticut quarter began surfacing. Imagine pulling change from your pocket and realizing one coin had doubled features, ghost-like images from a misaligned die. Others revealed dramatic off-center strikes, so the famous oak tree looked twisted and distorted. And then there were the wrong planchet errors, coins struck on metal meant for other denominations, creating bizarre, lightweight Connecticut quarters unlike anything the mint had intended. And here's the catch. These mistakes weren't supposed to leave the mint. They were accidents, quality control failures, coins that should have been destroyed. Yet somehow, a handful escaped. And once they were discovered, the frenzy began. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, sorting through rolls of quarters from a bank in Philadelphia, spotted something strange. The details of the charter oak appeared doubled, like a ghostly second image pressed into the metal. He thought it was nothing, maybe just damage from circulation. But when he showed it to a dealer, the dealer's face went pale. This wasn't damage. This was a doubled die, a minting error so rare, it could command life-changing money at auction. That single coin, bought for face value, went on to spark bidding wars worth hundreds of thousands, and that was just the beginning. Dealers began hunting for more. Word spread in hushed tones at coin shows, whispers that Connecticut quarters with the P mint mark could be worth more than anyone ever imagined. Some people laughed it off, saying state quarters were too common, too modern to ever be worth much. But then, an error coin surfaced at auction, selling for a sum that left even veteran collectors speechless. Nearly $1 million, for a coin that most people had tossed into jars, piggy banks, and cash registers. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable: many of these rare Connecticut quarters are still out there. Why? Because unlike older coins, the 1999 state quarters were produced in staggering numbers. They flooded into circulation by the hundreds of millions. Which means the rare errors, the doubled dies, the wrong planchets, the off-center strikes, were scattered like needles in a haystack across America. And ordinary people, not professional collectors, were the ones most likely to stumble across them. Think about it. That coin sitting in your change jar, the one you nearly gave to a vending machine last week, it could be the $1 million Connecticut quarter everyone's searching for. First, focus on the mint mark. It must be from Philadelphia, marked with the small letter P just beside Washington's portrait. That's your starting point. Next, examine the details of the charter oak tree. Look closely at the branches and trunk. Do you see doubling, like the design has a shadowy second outline? That could be a double die error worth thousands, even more. Now check the coin's edges. If it looks off-center, with part of the design missing or shifted strangely, that's another clue you're holding an error. And finally, weigh it if you can. If your Connecticut quarter feels unusually light or heavy, or the color looks slightly off, it might have been struck on the wrong planchet. Those are the coins that can cross into million-dollar territory. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on these, because every year fewer are discovered in circulation. Some are already locked away in private collections, never to return to the public. Others are still sitting silently in old coffee cans, sock drawers, and coin jars across America, just waiting for someone to notice. And here's the emotional part of this story. One man's pocket change became a miracle, a true $1 million discovery, because he dared to look closer. He didn't dismiss his coin as just another quarter. He held it up to the light, saw something strange, and his life changed forever. So ask yourself, how many Connecticut quarters have slipped through your fingers without you noticing? How many times have you handed over a coin that could have rewritten your financial story, because this exact Connecticut quarter, minted in 1999 with the P mark, could be sitting in your home right now? And if it carries one of those rare,